introduction. Hey, thank you for joining us on another episode of Cannabis Legalization News, the number one news source for cannabis issues on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. You can download them anywhere. Shout out to Keith Vance. He's been a member of the channel for 40 months. And if you are a member, there is a new video. It is a deep dive as to cannabis taxes. So if you're on a license, you might want to check out that deep dive. Maybe consider becoming a member of Cannabis Legalization News. Our lead story of the week has to do with the DEA rescheduling. We're going to kind of unpack that and see what is going to happen next with rescheduling. Spoiler alert, we don't know, because Donald Trump starts tomorrow, and his first order of business is making sure that you can continue to give secrets to China and be influenced by China, because for some reason we really like TikTok in this country. I'm not on it. You can't find us on it. We would have gotten kicked off anyway, because our channel is literally about cannabis legalization. So let's get into our trending stories, what's happening in the DEA rescheduling news, and bring on Miggy, our co-host.
$40 months. It's a long time.
It is a long time, but we've been doing this here show going on 6 years. It'll be 6 years, Super Bowl Sunday. That's basically our first show that we did in 2019. It was 6 years ago. But this is new stuff. This came out on Monday last week. On Monday last week, they granted the motion for the interlocutory appeal. And then there was kind of like a little bitch fit between lawyers that are representing various sides on there. A lot of people don't understand what the interlocutory appeal is going to do in the cannabis rescheduling matter that is before Judge Mulrooney, and he is an administrative law judge. What about, do you understand it, Miggy? I mean, like, you know,
well, that's what I asked about. So, like, I have it here. Where's the sexy page? Let's see if we can add it, or if you need us to add it.
You mean the one from Descript? Because I
got it. Moved and add. So where is the sexy section? Like, where do I go to straight? Because, like, I mean, everything's like
the sexiest is probably the sexiest, and this is like in our show notes, and it's one of the footnotes that are in there. And then so like it's on page 4. So scroll down to the footnotes on page 4, which is pretty good. And so it has to do with there's you see how like one of the whole pages is basically a footnote, and that is kind of hilarious. In the sense that they, it says, right, agency dismissal and a lyrical taunted. I don't like how in this one, though, it creates a weird font issue. And so like when you download it, that font issue goes away, but there it is, foolishness and not understanding it. But it's just kind of hard to read because sometimes it's in like one font and sometimes it's in the other font. Yeah, but I downloaded it. So I'll just pull it up on the one that I've downloaded.
That's a huge footnote, man.
What?
That's a huge ass footnote. A whole page of just like mentions.
A whole page of just the mentions. That's right. I guess I might just download it again. It'll be easiest. And so Scrib, though, wonderful. It's the best $11 that I spend a month. And then when I open it, it gets way easier to find because then it's all in the same font.
What's the importance of the footnote, though? What are you? Because, like, I again, these are illegal documents that have like predetermined sections, right? Like the intro, summations. I don't know. I'm just making shit up now. But like, what part of this document should be like, oh, this is important for like rescheduling to even happen? Like,
none of it.
Football is going to keep
none of it.
Yeah,
none of it is not absolutely none of it. That's the the beauty part of this evidentiary hearing. It means basically nothing. Newsflash, everybody. Come on, likes and subs. That's why you tune in, because it means basically nothing. But it is on page 4. And so that is where they had, and that's where, I mean, now that it's downloaded, I can actually read it. But it says, if true and viewed in the best light, these allegations demonstrate a puzzling and grotesque lack of understanding and poor judgment from high-level officials at a major federal agency with a wealth of prior experience with the APA, and that is a charitable perspective. Judge Mulrooney, hell of a guy. But an administrative law judge creates this evidentiary hearing and then provides their recommendation to the administrative body itself. And so he would file his order to the DEA. And now that there's this interlocutory appeal, where does it appeal to? Does it go to the district court? Maybe you don't understand how courts work in the federal government. Federal government is what we call a limited jurisdiction. And so the general jurisdiction, those are the state courts. The federal court is a limited jurisdiction, so you always have to, like, it's in the pleading stage where you have like a pleading of alleging your jurisdiction to be in front of that court. This is not that. That would be a an Article 3 court under the Constitution, where the federal courts are, and they hear specific things. This isn't that. This is an administrative judge. And so in the Administrative Procedures Act, they have these fourth branch of government judges like Judge Mulrooney, whose job is to hold evidentiary hearings for administrative proceedings themselves, and then file their opinion regarding their finding of the facts to the administrative body that is issuing its ruling. And therefore it is on the record, which eventually, after all of this happens, may get appealed to a district court, a United States district court, which would be the Article 3 courts. So there's the district courts, and then there's your circuits, your appellate circuits throughout the United States. But that's why I say, like, it means basically nothing, because he was going to issue these findings of facts and this ruling as to whether there is sufficient evidentiary basis to reschedule marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 and give his opinion. And then the DEA could just be like, well, man, that's like your opinion, man.
But so my question, though, is, like, is this good or bad? First, I thought this was negative, but then I see the beginning of the order. It says regarding Village Farms International, Hemp for Victory, and OCO. So I would imagine these people would want to reschedule it in the benefit, right? But why is this a good or bad thing in the sense of you're stalling out the rescheduling process, right? This is what you're asking when you do something like this, interlocutory. You know what? You're trying to kill it, right?
But it again, yes and no. And so, like, if this was a different forum, and by that I mean like a different court, yeah, with an interlocutory appeal, because then you're interrupting that court and you're going to another reviewing court. Here, you're not going to a reviewing court. You're going to the DEA's administrative head. And so it's like their allegations are that you're, as an administration, it's just so tainted and so biased toward what the HHS told you is the science justifying its rescheduling, that you're committing these ex parte communications, and you're just showcasing your bias all over the place. And so now they get to go to the head, the DEA's head, which of course there isn't one, as Ann Milgram has stepped down, because tomorrow Donald Trump will be sworn in as the 47th president, and to be the second president that was ever elected on non-sequential terms. And so that is really, really interesting, because now it's not going to a different court and then to be remanded back to the trial court. It's going to the administrative agency that would get the opinion from Judge Mulrooney themselves. So they're kind of like short-circuiting that process to determine whether or not they should be disqualified. And that is also kind of hilarious in the sense that you're going to confront the person that you're alleging to engage in impropriety and ex parte communications, and saying like, hey, you're doing this. What up? What gives? Like, are you really just going to, is this all a kangaroo court? You're not going to listen to this? What can we get in the record that would eventually get to a district court on some, judicial review of this administrative decision that would show the bias, and that they were just completely not listening to the evidence, because the HHS's evidence is binding on the DEA during their determination. And so, I don't understand how you can read what HHS, and especially now that RFK is going to be in charge of that, it's going to just be reiterated, and just ignore it and say like, hey, we're going to continue to prosecute this. And then meanwhile, you have like synthetic weed just going bareback all over the United States.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why is like this could be a good thing, because, the op-ed that the actual people who are involved in the lawsuit have one in the marijuana moment. Why delaying DEA's biased marijuana rescheduling hearing is good, for the cannabis industry. And I think it's really mostly, it really just forces this conversation to keep going, right? Like, how many bills die in committee, or what happened to the MORE Act, RAP, or the safe banking?
Never got called as a vote.
Hit
the Senate. The Senate never called it for a vote.
Sure, but there's all these procedural processes, because one of the things they point out is the those familiar with the agency's history will recall in the 1980s, DEA overruled another administration law judge's recommendation to reschedule cannabis. So, there's this constant.
That was a very famous opinion from the 80s. I'm not sure if you remember that AALJ from the 80s. Like, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he conclusively wrote, like, there has never been a plant that's been more studied and shown more medical benefits for it, and they just ignored him. But it was from the 80s. I can't remember his name because I haven't to think about it, and like, it never comes up. It is not relevant. There's not a case that I would ever file a brief on that guy for.
But I mean, that's just kind of par for the course for this plant. Every study's been like that. Every act and finding has been what we have presently is a shit show. That's a summation of, like, this plant is not toxic. This plant, the laws regarding people's interaction with this plant and how we choose to approach it is wrong as far as the law goes, right? A home grow, or it definitely is medical for many.
Yep.
Even on a Good Friday night, still good medical if it's not.
But if it's medical, then nobody's sitting there telling me that the potatoes they grew out in their garden are medical.
Yeah.
All right. And so, like, that's the problem that I have with a lot of the people that are in the industry. They just have this disconnect where they're like, there should be farmers markets. And I'm like, yeah, like farmers markets, like we have, for other medicines, like farmers markets for, Ozempic, and so, like, is it a drug, or is it tomatoes? Like, what is it, guys? You can't have it be both. But it was DEA Judge Francis Young from 1988. That's what it was. Okay. And he has a quote: marijuana in its natural form, one of the safest therapeutically active substances known to man. By any measure of rational analysis, marijuana can be safely used within a supervised routine of medical care. It would be reasonable, arbitrary, and capricious for the DEA to continue to stand between those sufferers and the benefits of this substance in the light of the evidence of this record. And it was ignored. But that was the 80s. And so, like, no on drugs. And now we have the 20s. Donald Trump and RFK go crazy on health. And so, like, go crazy on health, maybe we'll get, but then that's the thing. Like, so by short circuiting this and going straight to the DEA's head, whomever that's going to be under President Trump, because we don't know. We know Ann Milgram's gone, but that means that we just have no DEA head right now.
Just again, rescheduling right now is the only option we have for any real path of legalization. Because yes, we all should be able to grow potatoes. Like, that's this plant is a potato, but it's a healthy potato. It's a vitamin C. If you don't have oranges, you get scurvy, right? We have a THC deficiency issue. Really, what you think most people don't think about. But, like, it's how do you prove it? We need more studies, and for the more studies, we need legalization. We haven't had that path for any of the proper way to, like, define. We're still arguing about psychosis and all the other bullshit. None of this is solidified. CHS, like, these are probably all small percentages of consumers that have issues or real things are happening. But, like, those are the kind of shit we need studies for. And for those studies, we need to know the quality of the plant and the market, and then the individual, so we can, like, traceability and all that shit. There's a whole, things that need to happen before we can, and that's part of the legalization, I think, which is the regulation, right? Like, the understanding. Yeah.
Again, is this medicine or not? And so that's the thing. And so, like, if it's Schedule 3 and it's medicine, but then it's unscheduled, and then you're creating THCP and you're creating just THCA. You're just saying that none of that's medicine. And then you have the hempsters that'll be like, but then there's just such medicinal benefit that I get from using the plant. Like our last story mentions that kind of stuff. And so they play both sides. And it's not even like, herbal supplements, dietary supplements, you're not supposed to make any medical claims for. They make medical claims about this plant all the time. Of course, then we have our next story, which we can get to, or we can just kind of kill a minute. Bring on Miggy and let's kill a minute.
Well, yeah, shit, dude. I totally forgot. I was all getting ready. It's that time, baby.
20 past the hour. Smoke them if you got them. It's 420
Hell yeah.
somewhere in the world. You know I don't like TikTok? I don't like it. You want to know why I don't like TikTok? Because it is owned by China and they can influence you. And so why are the TikTokers paid so handsomely? Like we get paid $1.50 for doing this podcast by YouTube every month. Maybe $200 if we have an amazing month and we have a whole bunch of members that join. With TikTok, you get paid a lot more because the money's coming from the Chinese government.
I think we're screwed no matter what because we're weed, man. We've been shadow banned since the beginning. Like there has been no time.
We are not helping the Chinese government be assets of the Chinese government and influence Americans to do China's bidding. And so, like, at least we're not that. So TikTok was banned for 1.5 minutes today. And our next story has to do with a woman who went viral on TikTok before it was banned for receiving marijuana in Hamilton Burger King drive-thru. That's Hamilton, Ohio, where if you go to Burger King, you might get a good cheeseburger, man.
This cannabis Karen.
This cannabis Karen?
Yeah, that's like
you got the story?
I just say, yeah, this lady, Jana Bama. Let me see if I can find her TikTok. Because now TikTok's back up. So,
TikTok's back up? Oh, good. We can start feeding the Chinese government information again.
I mean, it's not us feeding it. It's the powers that be. Go ahead and add
the influencers.
There we go. Oh, let's turn the audio on too. Let's see if we can get this. Let us know if you can hear it or not hear it. I'll just remove an ad. Let's see what that would do. Bam! There you go. Now we can just click on here.
Okay, went to Burger.
Yeah, this person would have to get a real job if she didn't get paid from the Chinese government.
Get some chicken fries.
Yeah.
This bag came. If you look down in there, you can see some residue.
I mean, this is the dumb shit though.
She got her chicken fries.
She got a free tent.
Chicken fries with the side of.
Count your blessings, Karen.
Say that on here. Mary.
Maybe that's hemp, Karen.
Oh man.
From Burger King in Hamilton, Ohio.
That'd be an argument for that person. Whoops. There we go.
Great.
Let's
not help her get any more coverage. She did the TikTok. She sent a press release. It got picked up by the news because the news only reports weed stories when they're jokes or hilarious like this, where you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You went to Burger King and like, first off, did you think that maybe you shouldn't go to Burger King? Maybe you shouldn't be eating that. Second, you got weed. Okay. Somebody's made a mistake here. Maybe it's hemp. And so it's nothing, right? But let me make a TikTok about it and then send a press release out so I can get in papers. I don't know. I just do not like influencers and I don't like TikTok.
Well, I mean, we're an upside down, right? It's kind of meta where you can hate one thing, but yet you and I have been doing this fucking thing for, it helps funnel your traffic. We're going to have a store. I mean, like there's been a whole, like, we call it like a theme arc, fucking narrative that we have going on. Here, Will's like arc. I know it's an arc of something, but you know what I'm saying? Like we've been doing this for a while now where we are creators. Like I never saw like me being an influencer as a thing. Like I just thought I didn't have big enough boobs.
Dude,
like,
we are not. No, you're not an influencer. We're not We haven't done shit.
Oh,
and so like we haven't fixed the election. Like we have thought leaders. Yes, yeah, that's right. I'm a thought leader because I think that CBD isolate is the hemp extract or the hemp derivative. And so, I mean, like, God forbid somebody else would be like, so you take that CBD extract, you mean that hemp derivative? And then you do chemistry to it, and that's still hemp. So like, add a dash of hemp to literally any crime, and it's fine, right? So like, add a dash of hemp to like poison, and you're like, no, that is legal hemp. And like, and what is it? Well, it's mostly strychnine, but it's 0.3% delta 9 THC or less, so it's hemp. I'm like, okay, this is fucking Captain Cuckoo Bananas. Who set this definition? Congress, of course, did.
That's the whole everything behind this whole plant and law, right? Like, I'm cleaning my desk out right now, dude. I found this old fucking pack, right? When you get your script, right? This was like the script I had to get back in the day. And this all belonged to one place. That was their database. I got coupons for free apes and shit. It was amazing. Like, none of this shit is new when it comes to like retail, but also it is medicine. It's a plant that should be protected. But you know, like it's also a Good Friday night, right? Like some people like a glass of Guinness, you know, is healthy a day, right. But like my plant herb smoking is not, or I have to defend it somehow. So you know, the laws need to get shaped around how the consumers are being, you know, treated. We've been trying to do like, say, water bong in a store for a long time. There's got to be like this point where the law just peel the facade off, right? Like Cole. And I get when I was on Cole Membo, they were saying he was saying how like him and the other guy were happy that what hemp has caused, right? The hemp laws, the stir, the disenfranchised, you know, like, oh, no one knows marijuana or hemp, but the consumer's losing still, right? Because hemp's supposed to be like petrol. It's supposed to be sales.
There's no regulation, and so like if there's no regulation for your product, and you have to do substantial chemistry to it, or like hack a test for exploiting the threshold limit in a cannabinoid that the plant doesn't even make. The plant makes THCA, and it denatures into delta 9. Yeah. It's just so wrong, and like there's no way that this was legal. If that was legalization, wouldn't all the crimes that haven't gone off the books magically melt away? And they haven't. And so where's them investing in like legalizing it as opposed to just like the ones in Illinois? They're trying to completely codify hemp separate from cannabis and just make the whole regulation of legalization and cannabis in Illinois be as superfluous as a third nipple.
I mean, we have to say to the point where it is the same plant, but we need to also say one is for consumer, which I want to smoke and have a good time, and the other one is going to be booty weed. And right now they legalize.
It shouldn't be booty weed. It shouldn't be booty weed. It should just be not weed. Like hemp should just be not weed. But the other thing is who's going to regulate it. And so over in New York, trial court halts state dragnet on licensed hemp operators. That's right, because who is the regulator in charge? A trial court issued an order blocking state enforcement actions against licensed hemp operators. Concerns over the cut described an overly broad and aggressive campaign by state agencies targeting hemp businesses on unclear or disputed regulations. And so that's interesting. Who's supposed to go shut down the hemp farmers or the hemp operators that are wading into the waters of marijuana?
That's just been a prime example of the lack of regulation for hemp. Like that's why, you know, people say, "Oh, marijuana is legal." Well, you know, you're still losing your job. You can still like test hot, you know, for the CBD products. Right. You know, there's still a lot of potential for your life to be screwed with because there is no real regulation. There is no real law that says, "Hey, this is where you purchase it. Hey, you got to be 21 and over." Unfortunately, age gating is a thing for this plant and for Americans, right? Because we need age gate. But it's also medicine for kids like Charlotte's Web and the whole time period when all the other kids, like Lil Cassidy, you know, were during the 90s getting treated. So, yeah.
Well, it's who's going to regulate it? What is it? Those are the big things. And is it medical? Is it medicine, or is this a Good Friday night? Because like that's a different aspect of it. Americans, they want it to be medicine. You'll have 9 in 10 Americans say it should be legal for medicine. When you get into like it should be legal for a Good Friday night, you're getting down below 60% of the population. Every single one of the states that had it on the ballot failed. And some people will say like it's Kim Rivers' fault and Trulieve for being too monopolistic in Florida. Nah, that's not it. It still passed in Florida. It passed 56%. It was because it was an amendment to their constitution. You had to get 60%. And I told you it wasn't 60% according to the stats. It's 57, which is about what the vote was in Florida, by the way.
But we need that meme right now where it's like that little girl, you know, why can't it be both? Why can't it be medical? And why can't it be fun for Friday night? You know, like,
well, I mean, you know, whippets are so
that was fucked up, dude.
You know, but like there are scheduled medicines that are used off-label illicitly. And so I don't think hemp is going to be the illicit off-label medicine or, recreational use of the cannabis plant. That's just silly.
rescheduling is going to be the thing, right? Once rescheduling can happen, can't these hemp farms just say, all right, yeah, man, above 0.3, we're weed, man. Like it's what it is.
No.
No, cannabinoids.
Not really, because the rescheduling only goes to what has not been defined as marijuana, and so it's just moving marijuana. It's not doing anything about hemp at all. So until you get a new definition of hemp, you're not going to get any change between those two. And the rescheduling, it depends. Like I was looking at there was a rescheduling that there's a change, an administrative rule that came out through the DEA for telemedicine. And so that just came out this week. It's tangentially related to cannabis legalization news, which you're tuning into. And if you are a member, thank you. Don't forget to check out our IRC 280E and the workaround section 471C. It is for members only right now until Wednesday. You get the videos first. What was I talking about?
20 viewers.
We did? Oh, that's great. 420 viewers.
Sad face. 5 of you gotta leave now. Oh shit! Now we just never mind. Too many left.
Well, you scared 7 people off. Good job, Miggy. Anyway, the important thing is that the rescheduling and the new rule that came out for telemedicine, and so that actually you read all of it, and so like they're in the process of the rulemaking, and so it's a lot of their response to all the people, and then you get to the actual rule in and of itself, and so then there was like it kind of reads like law, so sections and subheadings and like the procedures you're supposed to follow. The same is true if you go and you read the rule for hemp, which they really want another crack at, and a new definition of that will allow them to have another crack at that, by the way. And so if they had that, and then they also had a new rule for marijuana, and they had to write both of them, they can kind of like marry them up a little bit because they would know what the lines of them are. So if you're watching RFK, and I know you are because Kim Rivers turned you onto this channel, you need to make sure that HHS or FDA, and then the DOJ and the DEA, when they're making these new rules for hemp and also for marijuana, you make them work and mesh kind of together. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And the rule that we have so far, just the proposed rule, just says moving from 1 to 3, end of list. Like no framework for how to be in compliance with the CSA. Just moving marijuana to Schedule 3 and breaking a whole bunch of things in the CSA instead of changing it, which is stupid.
Well, do you think, can they break the CSA? I mean, essentially, like, because, again, nobody wants a bad pilot, right? Like, I really hope next 4 years something good happens for us, because this is where I live. Nobody wants to fucking have a shitty house. But, like, thanks for joining us. Happy enough becoming a member. Sweet. Yeah, it was a good video too on that tax topic, dude. That good deep dive. I think I hope it informs you. If you're going to be in the industry, it was an interesting deep dive, very enlightening. Like again, this is the sexy talk, the paperwork stuff. This is the Tom talking about how telemedicine can join in with just changing progress, having rights and options. I think cannabis though has been involved with forward for a long time, right? Where I think telemedicine was a thing for some places, dude, before, like in California, because of the medical guys, right? Of just the markets in general to exist. Like,
I don't know, man. Like that gets into federal law and also state law, because like how I do actually have some law licenses from federal jurisdictions on the map, but then they're just like specific courts and like being entered into them, and you needed to already be licensed by your particular state. And so the states regulate law and medicine, not necessarily the feds, but so there's that. Let's move more into Florida. Like Florida's back. They're back for some more Senate amendments. No, not they aren't amendments. More actual amendments that they're going to try to vote on. And so they've filed another proposal. Safe and Smart Florida seeks to address issues raised by Governor DeSantis. And the issues raised by him is like he supported hemp because I think he hates Trulieve or Kim Rivers. And then I know that he hates Morgan & Morgan. The guy, he's a lawyer. He spent a lot of money on it as well in the Orlando area. So I can't remember what Morgan's first name is, but there's two of them, and they're one of the, if not the one of the largest and probably the largest personal injury firm in the country. They have signs all over the country. So if you ever get hit by a bus, you can call Morgan and Morgan and hopefully get top dollar, which it's what people think lawyers are very often is if I get hurt, I'll call one, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, but politics really can be about feelings, right? Like these guys stopping, like DeSantis stopping the hemp and like not pointing out common sense and that a good market could be fair. Like, and I get it's still limited, but like when this is a case by case, state by state. The law is not perfect process until there's federal rules. We're not going to have state fair. Like what I can do here in Washington State, you can't do the same over there in Illinois or and vice versa. And some's good, some of it's bad. You guys have different aspects to your market that we don't have here. We don't have lounges. We don't have restaurants or any of these places that we can go consume because
we also don't have restaurants. We also don't have those people are just hemp people. Yeah, they're just doing it. They're just doing it. They are allowed to have consumption lounges, but then they are not really baked into the law very well. And so the hemp people will say that what we are doing is not it while they are clearly doing it. Yeah. Either way, let's get back to what has happened in Florida. And so these guys that are trying to get this thing passed again, they say that this could generate $1 billion in annual tax revenue for Florida. And they've learned from past initiatives. The proposal is designed to withstand legal scrutiny because the attorney general very often files lawsuits to prevent the people of Florida from voting on whether or not they want legal marijuana. But the other thing is, Florida is a red state. And like I've said, only 57% of people want it. And the ballot measure is going to make them have 60%. But it's going nowhere in their legislature. So they feel like this is the only avenue for them to legalize it. Here, we didn't do that. We don't ask the people anything. There's only 60 people in the state of Illinois that make a law. That's it. And out of that 60 people, just a handful of them could stop a law. That's exactly why cannabis is not uniformly regulated in our state.
Well, again, to have a requirement of 60% plus to pass a rule is ridiculous, right? Because you already hit the above average. Like I don't understand what a red blue stuff is because I don't even understand what party represents because it's gonna be a crazy. I'm already just braced for shock. I want to that meme, the thing where it's poking. It's do something. That's what I feel like I'm going to be for the next 4 years because all these fucking I hate this, just dick riders. For lack of a better thing to say, it's these people who.
Right. Thank you for tuning in to Cannabis Legalization News, where we address complex issues like dick riding. Don't forget to subscribe.
I just don't get it's going to be no real legislation, right? Because in the past 4 years, everybody wants to bitch about recession and economy, but it takes a while for shit to happen. Like the CHIPS Act and all the other shit that goes down that has provided jobs and ability. The rescheduling ball, which can be stopped. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 4 years. We don't anything that anybody says, no matter how much money you have.
I know what's going to happen. AI apocalypse. And so you watch, by the time 2 months from now, there's going to be these new programs and they're going to start going really fast because they'll be able to do their own research. Imagine 1,000 PhDs working at 10,000 times the speed that we experience reality, and they don't need breaks. That's what's going to happen before legalization. And so now I've been handed a very important bulletin. We're going to play some Name That Strain.
There we go.
Do we have a Name That Strain? I thought that was going to be a clip.
We do. No, I think we're just having issues because he's on his little iPad. Sticky. That looks sticky as fuck.
Oh yeah.
Did you get the name from? Did you get the link? I got a link.
I got it in the. Here, I'll put it. I have it because it's titled, that overlay right there, that beautiful nut, which of course is near ripe and maybe even ripe. It's not been cured. Pre-cured picture for our Name That Strain this week.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this in your car, you're really missing out. You should check it out on YouTube, because then you can see the picture of the weed. And so this is generally known simply as cheese or UK cheese.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Original clone only strain originates in southern England, where they don't know what skunks are, so they think it's cheese.
That was one of our first episodes. It was a great interview. Some guys from UK.
Right. During the 80s or early 90s, grown from a packet of sensei seeds, skunk number 1, allegedly. So this should also be called skunk number 1, and it must just be a different, is this a phenotype? Is that what that is? Like a different morphology and expression of the plant that is the same genetic?
I'm not sure, but the first part's a Bob Marley song. I think it helps anybody.
Yep. It's a whole album, by the way.
There you go.
Not just called UK cheese. Like this name is actually just wrong, because the name should either be cheese, UK cheese, or skunk number 1, and none of those is what Leafly calls it.
Somebody said Irish cheese. So close.
So close. Kaya now cheese, also not. But go with other Bob Marley songs and then put the word cheese after it. So Three Little Birds cheese, not that. Jammin' cheese, also no. What songs have we not mentioned so far? Get Up, Stand Up cheese. No.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Those would be like future
Redemption
out
song
there.
cheese, also not. Yeah. What whole album? There it is. Okay, thank you. We've now narrowed it down enough. So everybody's getting the Exodus cheese now on mute. Nice young man over there. And so that is Exodus cheese.
One you. Yep.
Hey, big news. Biggest news ever, before he left. Joe Biden grants clemency to nearly 2,500 nonviolent drug offenders, some of which are related to cannabis. And so advocates are lauding this, and then, of course, urging for more reform, because he didn't let everybody out. There's still a few people left. You wanted Donald Trump to be able to pardon somebody in 4 years, perhaps.
Well, and again, though, the system to know who's locked up for just weed, right? With RICO cases, this is not an Google search, right? And people are lazy and don't want to fucking and also you have to defend yourself, right? Trying to get people to champion for you on the outside, because I imagine it's not that easy to try and defend your case of look, all I saw was weed. This is all I cared about. It was just that's where I've spent most of my activism, was just helping people, not because of I knew who they were, but just because of what they were convicted of.
Right. But you remember, the ways laws work are, you did that and that's the punishment. Okay. But yeah, man, but it's not, that's not the law. And there's tons of jury instructions that are out there saying you're not supposed to look at the law as how you want it. You're supposed to look at the law as how it is. And that should make us all want to work to legalize the plant. And if we have to go medical because we're going to try to get 88% of the population, as opposed to 57% of the population, as opposed to the 15% of the population that wants to be regulated like tomatoes, the pragmatism of it, and then the throughput. There's no throughput. Nobody fucking cares about this. And I'll get into rows on social media where they're hey, people in Congress really care about this plant. I'm safe banking hasn't had one vote. Not one vote in the Senate. And so you think any of these are going to get any votes in the Senate? My ass.
We're going to change our name to TikTok. People care about TikTok. Let's just call it Cannabis TikTok. Just be I'm going to smoke some TikTok. You got some TikTok? Can I get you TikTok?
No. TikTok has got a whole algorithm of getting people addicted to it. And so it was use the algorithm to get people addicted to it, and then have that huge network controlled by the Chinese government so that they can influence 175 million Americans by tweaking an algorithm or control them. Good work.
Hey.
Way to be an influencer and a creator.
Speaking of conspiracy theories, the two largest cannabis industry groups combine policy advocacy efforts to form singular leading authority representing industry in Washington. So again, now another powerful group that's cannabis lobbyists. I like the, people are afraid of Walmart weed. That just means like there's laws that protect Walmart weed people, which will protect consumers eventually, right? Like the more consumers.
Again, but like when two trade groups have to merge, it really just kind of goes to show that the industry's not doing great, and like it can't support two trade groups. And that's one of the reasons they probably have to like save on expenses, because these trade groups, they're nonprofits. So who's writing the checks to keep the nonprofit going? Trulieve, Cresco, GTI. Cresco's like, you could buy Cresco for like chump change to tech bros, like $350 million. You could just buy all their stock. That's it, which is kind of silly, but dude,
I believe one of these cancel groups is Big Cigarette, Big Tobacco, right? Like, isn't that so? I mean, now you got like trained lobbyists and regular cannabis lobbyists. There's going to be a group out there all about their self-interest, no matter what. How you want to look at it. This is just how America
business rolls. Is all about your self-interest.
Yeah,
like people fail in business because they're stupid, like hubris, like that type of stuff, like men hubris, right? But then like you're going to be self-interested as hell, and so like people would also probably like, let's say that you were a whale oil salesman or a whale oil conglomerate. You didn't even make the whale oil, you made the lamps, you can make the little lamp lighters, uniforms, you made the stuff the lamp lighters needed to do to light all your whale oil lamps. This is $18.90, by the way. And so your big whale oil, that's gone. Like electricity, gone, and so you will still though be lobbying to protect your cash flowed interests as you go broke.
Oh, sure. I mean, and again, you got to protect your business. I mean, people think that we're against hemp. It has nothing really. I mean, it will help us.
We were always for hemp,
but also it's like, okay, you want to say you're cannabis, you want to say you're giving people an experience. Well, you just don't get to that. The natural grown cannabis is the best experience for the medicine or the Friday night or whatever you want to treat it. But these two big groups now forming one, and again, they're all focused on the money. Like the safe banking is going to be the one thing they're all focused on. But like, the MORE Act would have been nice. Like if they can get some federal justice, actual initiatives that support you and protect you, but they don't. They're just trying to get 280E to work, which we get if you will.
They haven't gotten anything. But that's the thing. They've gotten nothing. Yeah. Quotes, and the quotes are from Charlie Batchel. He's the chairperson. He is also the CEO of Trulieve. This is a pivotal time for the regulated cannabis industry, with the newly elected Congress and incoming president who has publicly supported and pledged to advance common sense cannabis reform. We'll see about that. And then Kim Rivers, she's the vice chair on this, also runs a small cannabis mom and pop called Trulieve. For the first time in history, a Republican president endorsed these initiatives, and our new combined organization will best position the industry to help the president get them over the finish line. Not sure if the finish line is medical, or because can we get any form of federal legalization? I'm assuming that medical is the easiest form of federal legalization to get, because 9 in 10 Americans want it.
Sure. And again, I'm not mad at Kim Rivers, dude. Make your bag. She's an American who figured out a way to do a thing to get investment stuff in firms and create like whatever IPO shit on the market.
There's
whatever. Yeah. I mean, like, she's living well, right? Like, there's not mad at someone succeeding.
It was regulatory capture, but also having the capital and then getting a license. There's a lot of things, just straight up American business, but people like this industry, nobody who's advocating for mom and pop tech, like anti-corporate tech, or who's advocating for the local chicken farmers, because there ain't none. Nope. There's all these conglomerates in our United States, and regulated cannabis, licensed cannabis at the state level. We can, if let's say we try to dominate Illinois, we just magically find a pot of $50 million on my way to the office tomorrow. It could happen. It won't, but it could. And let's say that we're going to really make a run for it, even with Trulieve or Cresco or GTI, any of the publicly traded ones. You can control 2% of the dispensaries in the state. You're only allowed 10. and there's a limit of 610 licenses for dispensing in the state of Illinois. So actually, you get less than 2% of the state. That's it. Where else do they have it? Do they have this regulation with banking to restrict how consolidated banking can get? Do they have this with healthcare to restrict how consolidated your HMO can get? No, but they do it with cannabis. And then because cannabis is replete with activists, where like the real world's not good enough, it should be ideally how it is. You have all these people hating on corporations in the cannabis industry without recognizing that it's one of the least corporate aspects of it, and it's where you can't get hegemony. Sure, there's like a handful of publicly traded companies, but they have to play by the same rules of the game in any particular state. You can catch your limit and move on. That's really it.
I forget what other product has 50 different type markets, right? Period. Because there is no interstate commerce. So there has to be 50 different, industries, 50 different little fiefdoms, 50 different little, that's what federal rescheduling will help bring a more stable America. And unlike markets, our next story is the Leafly, how they announced they are being delisted from Nasdaq in transition to over-the-counter markets. Like there's a time and a place, right? Positioning, Leafly was ahead of the game, back in the day. Like then they became a big company.
They can't be a big company, Miggy. They can't be a big company. The reason they were delisted was not because they were in marijuana. They are selling marijuana, but like they were listed on Nasdaq as a company that's adjacent to the industry, but the industry is doing so poorly because hemp very quickly became the cannabis industry without any licenses or rules, except for it's not Delta 9, officer. And so it was because the company failed to comply with the minimum $500,000 in net income from continuing operations in the most recent completed fiscal quarter. It's too small of a company to be listed. It didn't even do $500,000 in net income last quarter. That's only $2 million in net income in a year. And again, like some people are like, wow, it's a lot of money. I'm like, not for a corporation that's listed on NASDAQ, it's not. It's against the rules. And so they go down to the OTC pink sheets, which of course is over the counter, OTC, over the counter.
Right. No, I agree they're small now, but like they got to the point that they got to the NASDAQ, right? Like I look at the business side of things in the sense of, because you're trying to achieve the NASDAQ, and I'm just more curious, like, okay, cool, they got there. Somebody got their bag, right? Whoever was the founder of Leafly, I don't know if they're still part of it, but like it became corporate, and then, they made bad decisions. That's how I see it, whether it be...
No, it's not they made bad decisions. They had the rug pulled out from them. They are the whale oil salesman. And so like they were selling whale oil. They should have been selling Delta 8 or like THC seltzers or THCA hemp directly to consumers, saying that it's not marijuana. That was what happened. And so this huge new cash flow outside of their channels popped up and directly competed with their channels. And so Leafly would be like charging licensed dispensaries tens of thousands of dollars in marketing fees a month. And those licensed dispensaries feel pain. They cut that marketing so they can just sell weed on their own website. We'll build out our own website, Leafly. We don't need to pay you $40,000 a month.
Well, I mean, they had competition years ago. I think it was at MJ Biz, or maybe it was a
But this industry doesn't move in years. This industry is like AI. It moves in a quarterly by quarterly basis. The Farm Bill changing will set the next 5 to 6 years.
You're saying they were trying to be a media site, but they were also thought they had the lock-in, right? Like Weed Maps, where Yelp, people can go on Yelp now, right? Legal states can do legal promotions, because then you have people with intention who are looking for the product. So I think just Leafly just kind of effed up on their whole, like probably overthought their worth, right? In the culture.
Miggy, be real with me, man. How many of their annual reports have you read?
None, ever.
Have you done any? Hang on, like I'm talking to Miggy here. Have you done any fundamental analysis of the financials of the Leafly Corporation?
These are my feels. These are all my financial feels.
So, like, what you're saying, none of what you're saying has any grounding in reality.
No, they just haven't been relevant in my life. You know what I mean? I haven't even it's like TikTok. I don't download TikTok. I haven't even gotten on Leafly's website in years. Like all the media side of things, you know, they were relevant at one point, but they haven't been any of these motherfuckers now.
Yeah. You know, Donald Trump weed. That's basically it. But Indiana is even going to start getting into it. And so, like, I think we have a real shot for federal medical marijuana under the Trump administration. I don't think we have a shot for recreational federal at all. But Indiana has introduced HB 1630, which would make Indiana the first state to bypass the medical marijuana program and directly initiate adult use cannabis. So you know it's not going to pass.
I mean, yeah, it's nice gesture, but now you'll see like where people stand, right? Like the population, I guess. But
well, they have a poll that says 62% of the voters support it. Whether or not that's accurate, it is from Ball State University, the alma mater of David Letterman. And so while its passage remains a long shot, the involvement of both Republican and Democratic sponsors shows a growing bipartisan acknowledgement of cannabis reform. Hopefully Indiana is a bipartisan state, because like it's very conservative and Republican, so much so they might be able to just lock out any Democratic input that they get. Like here in Illinois, like if you are a Republican legislature in Illinois, you are worthless. Like what you say, like no bearing.
Definitely imagine that the Vegas odds are not going to pass, but you know, watch it pass. That'd be fucking cool. Like just
it won't pass.
People voting yes. Oh yeah.
No, but no. It's not people that would vote yes. It's the elected individuals that would vote yes, and so it won't pass. But and then also, I would dispute the 62% and say like it's probably high. It's probably closer to the 57, 58%. But you know, I bet 99 or 90% of Indianans want medical. So maybe they'll pass medical, but okay, let's say it passes. Do you really think their governor's going to sign that into law? Because I don't. I never really hear of a governor not like saying no to a bill like that. Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, like, no, you're right. Like,
this,
but Nome,
Glenn Youngkin, like, you know.
Yeah, but
Christy Nome, Arizona in 1997.
True story.
Christy Nome again.
Who's now going to be HSA or Homeland Security?
Nebraska, you know.
Fuck.
Yeah, no, and so like, yeah, you have heard of the governor saying, "Hey, just a second there, bro. I love what you're doing here. I hate it though. I'm going to just veto the crap out of this." Yeah. And then DeSantis is the exact opposite. DeSantis vetoed hemp bans, and so like that hemp ban, if DeSantis would not have vetoed that hemp ban, that would have sucked money out of all those hemp operators, because they couldn't have turned Florida into essentially its own dispensary. And so you have two lanes in Florida. You have a medical card, you can get the real shit. And then if you don't, you can get whatever you can buy from the gas station. And so like it's ridiculous, but he vetoed that so that he would beat the legalization bill, because it's political. He doesn't like the people who sponsored that.
Do you think he vetoed it because of that, or because hemp just is paying him a shit ton of money? You know what I mean? Like money? No?
I think money is part of it, but more than money, it's politics.
I mean, money's the big player in all this shit, right? It's the same thing that hold up Illinois, Chicago. Looking at you, Mr. Mayor. Like,
well,
why?
No, it's the rule of 60. It's like Illinois is not partisan, and so it's what those 60 Democrats in that General Assembly want to do, and that's it.
It's just been cuckoo bananas when it comes to like the money behind all this shit that is being kind of held up for potential, for income, for commerce, for taxes. But until we get real legalization, we're gonna have dumb shit like this Oregon Live article where DEA police imposters from Texas posed in disguises, then try to rip off major marijuana grow in Southern Oregon. I can't believe they try to do this in a legal state. Have you read the article?
Not really, but I thought it was hilarious that they took the picture first without the drugs. And I'm like, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to get the drugs and then take the picture of the drugs like it's a fish you caught or a deer that you shot. It is the spoils of your hunt, which is really lame and sad when it comes down to it. But it's the ongoing issues of the safety and security of the cannabis businesses in Oregon. High value crops, and then they're targets for criminal activity. But these impersonators went to great lengths to appear legitimate, from wearing DEA branded uniforms to presenting counterfeit documentation. You see, they were going to rob somebody. And so to rob somebody, they dressed up like the DEA.
Like, I mean, how would you know, right? Nothing scarier than like a raid. And then again, they're putting their lives at risk, dumbasses. But the story is awesome because it starts with, after driving to Southern Oregon from Texas, dude, that's a long ass drive to like with intent to like bring guns and scare people. So this legality in the state by state shit endangers people in other states, right? From people they drove from Texas. You don't see them robbing hemp fields.
Well, I'm not sure about that. Like, they may be, because they're growing THCA. That stuff you can sell. They're selling that stuff for thousands of dollars a pound retail.
Yeah. I haven't just seen stories then, maybe, but just crazy how prohibition still encouraging bad behavior. It's the safe access, safe, for your personal.
But that's and so if it was federally legal, people might still be trying to rob a farm in Oregon, especially if they come from Texas, especially if they're criminals. You can go rob that farm in Oregon if you're from Texas, drive it back to Texas, slap fake COAs on it, call it THCA flower, make thousands and thousands of dollars.
I think you will have loss like that, but I mean, any farm has that, right? Avocados are fucking $4 an avocado. And in California,
at the retail level, I mean, like the avocado, then it's like Banana Republics, and so those avocados are controlled by the Sinaloa cartel. You know it.
Well, no, when I used to live in Cali, that was a big the you can get shot, right? Farmer will come out and because people will be flicking avocados all the time, just because like fuck yeah, it's saving $2-3 back then, let alone now. But any farm, any commodity. It's going to have some sort of, even the drug market, when people actually make fucking liquid cocaine, the DEA has like a loss factor that you're allowed to like lose in shipment or, theft. So, why? We have all these different little barriers, but some of it's needed, right? Like there is good legalization and regulation. Like I think lab regulation is the plant regulation. If we know how to test it, where to test it, it'll help eliminate that hemp goddamn real cannabis barrier, right? Because
no, the only thing that'll do that is regulate. So if they would have said the plant Cannabis sativa L, that's a type 3 cultivar, and define the types of cultivars, that would have prevented at least the THCA, rampantness that's going on. And then if they would have said all derivatives, and people would have been cognizant enough to realize that means that you can take the plant, the cannabis plant that is, Delta 9 THC compliant, and derive CBD isolate from it. And that's the derivative. Not that that's hemp. And then we can keep making other stuff downstream from it and it's still hemp.
I just think it's funny. People are like, I love my THCA, and I get that you enjoy ordering your weed through the mill or buying it wherever you're buying from. Right. But I guarantee you, my shittiest mids are better than what you're getting in the mill, right? Like there's more protection, traceability wise, proper packaging. If something does get caught, like again, there's been incidences where people have been smoking hemp and gotten sick, and just lack of. Not besides the vapes, the actual flower, the consumer's really losing out in the experience here, right? Like it's McDonald's process versus something grown naturally, so you can be like, oh, this is what a tomato tastes like, or just whatever. It's just not natural. Damn,
yeah, it's not. It's chemistry, but we'll see. Tune in like 3 months. They will not be starting. They're going to start with TikTok, they will get to the marijuana, hemp, cannabis plant regulation, hopefully in the first year.
But I think a lot of it is consumer ignorance. Like the last story we had is the Illinois Black Hemp Association says industry under attack. But it kills me because none of these people are farmers. They're all just like restaurant owners and vape shop owners. You know, you're not the actual.
None of them talk about like being a farmer either, because there's only 44 hemp farmers in the whole state, and they aren't allowed to farm THCA product. They can't. And so like our hemp rules apply to them, but you can import hemp into the state. And so it's all out of state stuff. And they want to sell THC. They want to sell weed that gets you high. And then they said only a fraction of those vying for a dispensary license win one. That's their beef, that they can't have a dispensary. And so they call themselves the Hemp Association. The barriers of cannabis are pretty obvious, they said. This is Wilson. This is the guy who owns the Prohibition THC Cafe. And I'm sure if we brought it up, that THC Cafe is probably a full-on dispensary where you can also buy food that gets you high.
Well,
like it's a restaurant food. But they say, like, you know, the barriers to cannabis are pretty obvious. When you set a high entry amount that's needed, it automatically puts out small businesses and essentially black people. So he speaks for all black people that everybody has been put out, even though 100% of the licenses go to social equity applicants. That is legally defined under the law, but whatever. He then blames billionaires. He goes, open the door up for billionaires and rich people to pretty much monopolize the industry. So ultimately the same people who benefited off the prison industrial system are now capable of accessing the legal weed industry and ultimately just keeping us as consumers. And so he is playing all sorts of like emotional cards to justify his ability to continue to sell weed without a license and call it hemp.
My dude, you're proud on selling shitty products. Like that's, there's no pathway for you to get, there's limited licenses and all this. This is just a brand new fucking market, brand new industry that they're going to have limits until there's fucking federal legalization. And even then, states are going to restructure and reshape. And you just don't know. We just don't know what's going to happen this year. Hell, if on the 22nd, there's some like magical document written, right? Like, I make everything great. Like, here I am right now. Dear Orange and beautiful Jesus, I hope that you make weed legal on 22nd. Amen. Like, that's where we're functioning now. That's where we're at, buddy. Like, that's it.
Yeah, right. And so, like, where we're actually functioning is, Chinese government that's been influencing us and paying our histrionic types that can like dance to a particular beat in the profile section of your phone. Thanks for coming back. Don't try to give us too much spin on like how good Russia and you are, but cool. And then now we're going to deport all the people that shouldn't be here. And so good luck trying to get somebody to build something or pick your vegetables. And then we're going to start cutting all the government jobs. Okay. And so when are we going to regulate the cannabis plant? When are we going to legalize marijuana, change it to cannabis, change the definition of hemp back so it's industrial, so cannabis is regulated uniformly for all the people that want to use it?
It's whatever lobbyist shows up who has his ear. That's what's going to happen, right? Like, I think what's going to happen federally is going to happen in Illinois right now, where you have these hemp advocates who've stopped, actual progress. And then you also have people who actually say, this is going to be medicine if we just reschedule it, because that'll create like a pathway for markets and having a capability to enter this field if you want to do it. Like, the world's a whole big different when you're 18 smoking weed and you're like, man, I just want to sell weed for a living versus running a business, brick and mortar, whether it be a restaurant or a store, but now add weed to it. It's when you're young, you're like, I can't wait to
open. Is it going to be medicine or is it going to be a good time? And so like, that's the thing. Omit your hope Omit your idealism. You are living in the real world, especially as a business owner and entrepreneur in that industry. And so I understand like why they're selling as much weed as they can and calling it hemp, because it helps them make money. And they don't care about your business. They care about their business. That's it. So it's one of those where we are now going to hopefully get some type of regulation, but we haven't in years. And so we still might not. I think we're going to get a new definition in the Farm Bill and hemp, but like, I don't think the DEA is going to get any more money to enforce the rules. That's one of the problems we have. Like, if the regulators are not paid, how can they do their job? And so like, if they cut the IRS's budget by 50% because Doge thinks that's a good target to cut some budget from the IRS, because you got to pay for the debt, the interest on the debt. And you also have to pay the old people for, Social Security and whatnot, but just don't pay the people to audit. You think people are going to report the taxes accurately? Of course not.
What if the DEA gets restructured, right? Like, what if they're like, okay, we're
that
not
won't
going to
happen.
enforce?
Well, that could be any laws that would require.
Well, I mean, apparently everything happens with Humpty Dumpty. So I don't even know, dude.
It doesn't. And they keep, he can enforce laws or not. And so it would be great if we got one of those executive orders. Here's how I will be enforcing the marijuana laws. But yeah, right. And so I think it's going to be another year. I mean, we've blown it. We've done our whole hour. I mean, that's all the stories that we have. Yeah. But I think it's going to be another year of us just shaking our head and going like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But if we get a new farm bill, it's a re-rack for 5 more years. That's the industry. If we get Schedule 3, that would be another re-rack for 5-10 years. That's the industry. But I don't know if we're going to get a Schedule 3 or a new farm bill. If we get that in 25, it'll be the most groundbreaking, earth-shattering frickin' year that we've had in cannabis legalization in a while.
Either way,
ever.
Texas will only have hemp. Farm bill or
Texas
not,
has like got more dispensaries than any other state because they only have hemp. So we'll see what happens to hemp on that. But hey, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been another hour of cannabis legalization news. We cover all the stories, and if you have one that we didn't mention, leave it in the comments. Don't forget to give us some likes, some subscribes. Consider becoming a member, because then when we wind up the show and say, go check us out here or there, we run the credits and your name will be in it.
Do that. Yes.